We want as much diversity as possible on our team because I'm not naive to think that I can fix everybody. I hit a roadblock. Let's get a fresh set of eyes with a different skill set and see if they can help you out.
All right, so everyone, welcome to the Clinic Box Show. Today we got a special friend and a good guest. His name is Aaron Binstock, and he's with Strive Health and Performance. He has a team of 35 people, 2 locations, and you're also one of the coaches at Clinic Etc. as well, right? So, Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, and I'm curious. Do you remember how we first met, Aaron?
Well, I remember the first time I spoke with you actually was during COVID when you were doing some community lives, and I popped on there.
Okay.
And then first time I met you in person would have been last year, I think, after one of the Boss Club events.
Okay, that's right. And I think you were introduced to us, did you go to school with Kate and Evan? Is that the origin story? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Kate and Evan, they have a big clinic, a couple big clinics in Calgary, like Peak Health, like chiropractors. Did you guys go to college together as chiropractors at CMCC?
We went to chiropractic college together. They were a year below me.
Okay.
So I graduated 1 year ahead of them, but we obviously hung out a lot and we played sports together. So I was more friends with Evan, and then through Evan a little bit Kate, but
okay.
Yeah.
And was that the link between like Evan, and like, I guess me, I guess?
It was, yeah, because we were kind of at a point where we just felt a little stagnant, and I had seen something on Instagram about Evan being a guest speaker at, I think it was a Clinic Boss or event or some sort of Clinic Accelerator event. And I just reached out and I said, hey, I saw you were a guest speaker. I mean, congrats. That's awesome. We're just feeling a little stagnant. Do you have any suggestions as to something we can do? And then he said, we'll talk to these guys and see if you feel like that's a good fit, because it's really helped him. So
okay,
that's
cool.
I guess the original link.
Okay. Awesome. And so you're a chiropractor, and
Yes.
And you went to school at CMCC. When did it hit you that you want to own a clinic? Was it always you want to own a clinic, Aaron?
Yeah, it really was. But I didn't want to own coming right out of school, just because, I mean, there was so much I didn't know. I wasn't even a licensed chiropractor yet. I moved out to BC, which is definitely not something I would have done. I don't know why I did it, but I did.
You moved out of love, right?
You know what? I kind of chased a girl, but not exactly. She was enough of a nudge for me to go, but truly, I just felt complacent at home, and I wanted to try something new. And I had friends from my class that were moving out here, and then I saw an opportunity at a clinic that was starting brand new. And as I did know that I wanted to open a clinic, so I saw that as an opportunity for me to just learn what it takes to open a clinic from scratch. And then I put my eggs in that basket, and I'm very thankful for it.
So how many years were you being an associate for before did you buy the practice or you started the practice?
No. I just signed on as an independent contractor, the only chiropractor there. And I was there for about 5 years before I started to open Strive with one of my good buddies, Rob, who also went to CMCC.
Okay. So you were an independent contractor and associate for 5 years, learned, how to build your caseload and all that stuff, right? And then you opened up a practice with a business partner, right?
Yeah. I mean, looking back, I don't even know if I really learned how to build a caseload. Not effectively. Unfortunately, I didn't have any other chiropractors around there. We were all fairly new practitioners as a whole. So I didn't get a lot of experience to draw from. I mean, it was great from just seeing the amount of work it takes to build like my practice, yes, but also a clinic. So it was still very valuable, but I mean, I'm still learning.
Do you mean Dr. Kim at CMCC didn't teach you how to open up a practice?
He taught me other things, but yes, he did not learn that.
Oh, geez. And so you opened how many years ago then?
We opened in 2016, so it'll be 10 years in May.
Wow. You've
Yeah.
been a 10-year, you passed a 10-year milestone as being a practice owners, right?
Yes. Almost. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy how much time has flown by, but
It's cool to see, like, like that you've grown your team to 35. Now you're at 2 locations.
yeah.
But where I'm curious is that when you first started opening with Rob, was the plan to was open to like a small clinic, like you want to start small, or you're like, hey, you know what, I'm going all in, I'm going to get that 2,000 square foot footprint and I'm going to build like a real clinic, or did you start small?
No, we were kind of somewhere in between. I mean, our square footage at our original clinic is 1829, so it's just
That's close. Yeah.
1,000. But we definitely didn't want like small niche. We're both social people. We like to play, team sports, so we like the team aspect. So for that reason, like we weren't necessarily thinking huge, but we weren't thinking super small.
You weren't thinking about renting a room at a gym like,
No.
because a lot of startups are this way. Like I'd say a lot of solopreneurs are this way. Like you've heard that story where they rented a room in a doctor's office
Yeah.
or a gym or like, downstairs in their condo, and they all of a sudden it became successful, and then they had to redo the entire thing and get 2,000 square feet and build a real clinic again, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because again, for us, that wouldn't be that team mindset, really. Like, sure, you might have other practitioners in the other rooms, but you're not all on the same page per se. So we wanted to build a team. We didn't necessarily know how big of a team, but we knew we wanted a team. And of course, we wanted to get to the point where we can keep growing it, because ideally that would mean more revenue for us. But that was kind of our mindset going into it.
Mm. And I'm curious, most chiros I know typically never bring in physios, right? And most physios also avoid, I would say, working with chiros, especially in the US. Like there's still like this traditional mindset, right? And so I'm curious, like, why did you decide to go multidisciplinary? Because right now, your practice, your team of 35, you got physios, chiros, you got massage therapists, and you have like some of the other like allied health services, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think two things. Number one, I my personal belief is that's kind of a mindset thing. Like, for instance, a lot of physios don't really know what chiropractors do, and in fairness, there's a big scale of chiropractors. Like I wouldn't even refer to just any chiropractor, because I don't believe in everybody's methods. So I know that our style is similar to physio-ish, but at the same time, we also know that we have our bread and butter, and we want as much diversity as possible on our team, because we just wanted to be able to provide the best patient experience possible. And I'm not naive to think that I can fix everybody. And so we wanted as much of it, like I said, diverse skill set on our team to be able to accomplish that, right? Whether it's co-treating, or whether it's, hey, I got stuck, I hit a roadblock, let's get a fresh set of eyes with a different skill set and a physio and see if they can help you out. Or if someone came and was post ACL surgery, that's not something I really want to take on personally. So like I said, that for that reason, we wanted to have as well-rounded of a team as possible. And I also think that there's some of it is just, I don't know if ego is the right word, but like it becomes
It is ego, right?
Yeah,
You did 5 years of school, right?
Yeah. And so that's, again, for us, that's not a thing. Like, we want to come together and be able to deliver the best experience possible. And that is something, when we bring people on, we want to make sure that egos are checked at the door, and we have humble people, because it's okay. Like, if I can't get someone better, but someone else on my team can, that's a win. Like, what can I learn from that? But it's certainly not, I don't want someone else to get them better because I couldn't. Like, wrong person to be on the team.
Yeah. I think this is where, like, I see a lot of clinics in Canada and Australia and parts of the US, like, where they've become a lot more progressive of building multidisciplinary practice, where it's like a one-stop shop for a patient's like health needs, right?
Yeah.
Right. Whereas And I see a lot of chiros taking charge in the US, like where like they would stack physios doing it, but then I don't see on the physio side. Physical therapists are in the US traditionally still like have a very closed mindset where it is still like I'm a physical therapist and
Yeah.
we are the best. And like, you know, if you look at your typical clinic composition, it's like 1 million of physical therapy revenues, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you know, the clinics that I like to look at where our multidisciplinary practice, like they're doing a $3 million practice where 1 million is like physiotherapy, 1 million is chiropractic, and then 1 million in massage. And, you know, a beautiful, it's a beautiful like P&L when you look at it because not only with the cross referrals, but also the margins and yeah. So, what's your thoughts about that, Aaron?
Well, I agree with all that, but it's also an opportunity for your team to, like, again, get better as therapists because, you know, it makes me think of, as you were talking about it there, a lot of our physio candidates, you know, they want, you know, that physio mentorship, right? And they want that strong physio presence to learn from, which, don't get me wrong, there's value there, but they don't see necessarily the value in the fact that if you have a chiro of 15-year experience, you've got an acupuncturist of 10-year experience, right? Like those are greater opportunities to learn more and diversify that skill set than just having a few senior physios to learn from, so to speak.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Who are you going to learn more with acupuncture? Like a physio taking a weekend course on acupuncture or a 10-year acupuncturist, right? Is that
100%.
is that a good analogy?
Right. But that's that pigeonhole mentality. But yeah, there's a lot of other value, like you just said, in terms of the cross referrals as well, to have a full diversified team.
What percent of your patients get a second service at your clinic, you think? Whether like, regardless of point of entry, they could be coming for a physio, chiro, massage. What percent do you think get a second service?
So I would say, I mean, if you're looking at like long term, you know, you're probably looking at, I would say 50% for sure.
Yeah.
Probably higher. But not necessarily, you know, they come in tomorrow and they're booked to see the physio and then within a week they're seeing chiro, massage, like that. I don't know, that one I don't really know the answer to, but I would say long term, once they're
Yeah,
in
an LTV, you know, like what the lifetime value of a patient, typically they're going to get a second service, right? You know, especially if they enjoy the first service, right?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 50% is a good benchmark that I see a lot of successful owners do within the community. And a lot of the magic also happens is like co-treating with like shared care plans, right? You know, so then, yeah, I think that's where all the magic happens, right?
100%.
Yeah. So let's rewind back. So first year in business, you know, you open your practice. What did the revenue look like in your first year? Do you remember that?
Yes. We were just over 500,000 in our first year.
Wow. Okay. Were you guys happy or no with that? Like $500,000 in BC is probably a break-even business at that point, right? After paying yourself, right?
I mean, I can't even tell you what the EBITDA or profits were because we didn't know that was a word at that time. But we were very happy, of course. Like, and I think we were fortunate because Rob and I both came from clinics that were like 6-7 kilometers away. So we got one of his massage therapists that he worked with.
Okay.
So we had a good like following and startup in that sense. And I think then the ball kept rolling from there. In
essence, like, you know, because you've been a practicing associate for 5 years, and it sounds like Rob, very similar because you graduated at the same time, like you had the 5 years of following people searching for Dr. Aaron Binstock, like they're coming to your new practice, right? You know, so that sounds like made up the majority of the $500,000 in the first year, right?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. And then obviously like the massage therapist that you brought in, right? You know, so
yeah. And then again, that massage is great for that cross referral, right?
Yeah.
They're in the clinic.
Yeah. And then how many years before you hit your first million?
We hit that just after year 3.
Okay. And would you say, because you work with a lot of clinic owners, you coach them within Clinic Accelerator, would you say that is a pretty good like milestone to be able to hit your first million within the first 3 years, or you think you'd be done shorter?
I think it depends. I mean, there's lots of different factors, right? I mean, I guess how big is your clinic? How many therapists do you have? Because then if you only have a few therapists, it's going to be harder to hit 1 million. But I think if you're doing everything right, I think the 3-year mark is pretty good. I mean, maybe 4. Again, it depends on your setup. Like us, if we didn't have that caseload that followed us already, would we have been able to hit it right away? I don't know. There's so many factors, but I would say 3 to 4 years would be a good target.
Yeah. And I think hitting the first million is the hardest. I see a lot of people get stuck in the middle, right? Like at that $500,000 mark, right? They're stuck, or that 300 to $500,000 mark is where most people get stuck, right?
Yeah.
With like growth. And the first million is the hardest thing, but your second million is way easier. the time to hit your second million is way, way faster, right?
It is, because I feel like it's indicative of, once you've kind of hit it, you have implemented enough processes that your clinic is just way more efficient and your systems are more efficient, which is then obviously going to snowball to that expedited revenue growth.
Yeah. And what would you say, what was your experience on what happened that made you, what happened or what did you implement that made you jump from $500,000 to $1 million? Your first million.
Was recruiting more, being a little more aggressive with recruiting, not feeling like every clinician we had to be at 100% utilized for 3-5 months, right? Like, so we decided that we wanted to recruit more or at an earlier stage, so that we wouldn't have patients overflowing and having a wait list. So number one would have been recruiting more. And even with our recruiting tactics, so it's one thing to want to recruit, but it's hard to get people and good people. So just learning the different tricks of what are other ways you can entice someone to come to you as opposed to all the other clinics around there. So I would say recruiting as a whole was the biggest thing. And then treatment planning would be another one.
What do you mean by treatment planning? That I hear that word everywhere. Treatment planning, patient experience. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, well, and you talk about the patient experience. And I mean, for me, coming out of school, we weren't taught any of this stuff. Like, sure, you want to treat and get the person better. But I would always just have that initial visit and tell them, okay, come back Wednesday or next week, whatever it was, and then see how everything goes. But treatment planning for us now, I mean, we have obviously a piece of paper, and for every injury or assessment, you're essentially giving them a very detailed outline as to what their journey is going to look like from this visit to achieving their goals, recovering, whatever it is they're here for. So the plan, if it's 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks, but you're booking them that entire plan, because that is what they're going to need, at least based on all the evidence or information we have, in order to hit those goals. And I was really hesitant at first to do stuff like that because, listen, it feels salesy. At least it did to me. It does for a lot of people. But when you really sit back and look at, the patients are coming here for your honest expertise, right? And so we just got to tell them what we think they actually need in order to get better. And ultimately to get the best experience, because if I don't give them a proper plan and they don't get better, then now I didn't do my job. I feel bad. And now they don't have the best experience with me, and they're probably going to move on to someone else for their next injury. So by having this confident plan and tell them this is what we need, I get more results in terms of people are getting better. They're enjoying their experience more because now they're back to doing the things that they love doing. And then, yes, of course, if you're seeing people more, not more than they need, but if you're seeing people more, then your revenue is higher.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting is that if we when we hire experts, whether it's an expert to fix your yard, right, or it's going to see a specialist, typically we want a plan of what's going to happen. What are you going to do if I was to give you $5,000, right?
Mhm.
What are you going to do if I'm going to give you $2,000? What will the next like 4 to 6 weeks look like? And so this happens in our day-to-day lives, yet I don't understand why most practitioners and providers, whether you're a physio, chiro, massage, can't apply that to your own practice. Because we expect other people to do that, right? If we give them money,
Exactly.
right?
100%. It's the biggest challenge, in my opinion, as a clinic owner to get younger, newer therapists to fully grasp it and run with it. But I mean,
And
again,
why do you think that's the case? Why do you think it's so hard for these new grads? And I'm not even say new grads because I think the even like some of the old dogs have
yeah.
this issue, right?
Well, I think old dogs, again, from my experience, would be that they've they've practiced the way they've practiced, and then for someone to come in and tell them otherwise, again, that's I guess it's a bit of an ego thing, but they feel like they're comfortable the way they've practiced, and more often than not, they're, I guess, fine enough. So they don't want to have to change anything. And I think that the newer ones, the biggest thing comes down to confidence. Like they don't have the confidence. Like, oh, I don't know if I can tell this person it's going to take 6 weeks because I haven't seen an ankle sprain enough, right? And I'm not sure. And so what if I'm not 100% right? So it's a lack of confidence, and the same thing. They feel like, well, they're going to see I'm young, and they don't want to have to commit this amount of money, and it's money's tight. So it's just it really does come down to confidence. I think.
That makes a lot of sense, right? But here's the thing: if you don't put together a plan, you've lost in the game already,
For sure,
right?
I agree. But you
It's
know,
like you're revealing your cards. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm winging it. So just come once a week and we'll wing it until like you get better, right? Versus saying, "Hey, I need you to come 2 times a week for the next 5 weeks. This is what your plan will look like. Yes, it's going to include chiropractic. Yes, it's going to include massage therapy, and run to the front end. They'll book your schedule, right?
yeah,
Here's your piece of paper.
yeah, yeah. But some get it more. But I think ultimately too, it comes down to us as clinic owners, mentors, whatever you want to call it. That it's how do we deliver this message to them, right? And that's something that I've learned a lot over the last few years. Is it's also my job to explain the why to them, that it makes sense to them.
Mm.
Taylor, we've modified our onboarding process in a way that it exposes them more to these treatment plans before they start, so that the more successes they see and do themselves, then again they build that confidence up to do it themselves. So yeah, like they need to be willing to be coached and learn and be vulnerable, but we as coaches, mentors, whatever it is, we also have to do a better job and not just slough it off as they don't want to listen to me. Some of them don't, but
So what's your strategy? Like, what do you do? Is this a training thing and onboarding thing? Like how do you get compliance with your providers, your clinicians of using care plans?
well, I mean, compliance definitely builds with success, right? So the more they actually do it and say 2, 3, or 5, 6, 7, 10 visits, whatever, and patient books it, then they're like, oh, wow, okay. So that part helps. But something we've changed is now before they start with us, we have them come 3 weeks beforehand. And yeah, we have a general onboarding process, but we have them come and shadow assessments, specifically as many assessments as possible.
With
And
who? With like you or your clinical lead or?
yeah, more senior therapists, let's put it
Okay.
that way. People who are better at treatment planning, let's say.
Also, you get them to before they start, like they're already being onboarded and trained by. Okay, I love that.
Yeah. Because we just at our quarterly, we got to do something different. So this is the one thing we said, all right, let's try this. So we had them come 3 weeks beforehand. And like I said, so it's kind of a combination. They watch us do the assessment. We also have them fill out a treatment plan. Even though like I'm doing the history, the physical, we ask them to fill one out themselves as well, as if it was them. And then, we review it, but we'll also ask them specifically to like pay attention to what kind of questions am I asking? How am I saying this treatment plan to the patient. How's the patient reacting, right? Like just trying to focus in on those specific things so that they can hopefully connect the dots as to why delivering it in a certain way is impactful in terms of building rapport and trust with the patient, that they then, believe our plan. And then, after they've done a few of those, we still do some mock ones, but then we actually have them almost like it's a practicum, like then they take on some assessments in those first few weeks before they actually start, just specifically to do in order to be able to do a treatment plan. And then again, we review and reflect, and depending on how it went, they.
So are these real patients, or this is like just role playing?
No, I mean, we do some role playing,
Okay.
but
So this is new patients. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's just, again, that's something we felt that like, that's the type of experience they need. And why not develop those skills as much as we can before they actually start and actually take patients in their schedule.
Yeah. I love that. And then what happens afterwards? Like, so you onboard them and then they start doing it. Like, do you have like recurring training, role playing that happens, or?
Yeah, we still have a CD that works with them once a week, even like once they've started for an hour. And of course they might go over some other things, but there's intent that each week they're reviewing some of the treatment plans and in general, just how that first visit went. But again, trying to tease out specifically, really focusing on the treatment planning itself, and the booking and getting takeaways from it. And like I said, so far the early results are really good.
And is the clinic director sitting in on some of these assessments?
You mean when they first actually are starting?
Yes.
I would say so far, no.
Okay.
But I think it still can be a good idea.
But it might help. It might demotivate their confidence as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I would get a little nervous even today if a senior chiropractor was listening in on me, But they do get that in that 3-week span leading up, right? Like when they take on an actual patient, but like in my schedule, like I'm there watching, and it's because that's the only way. Like, sure, you want to give them some independence, but it's hard for me to give feedback if I didn't hear or see what's going on.
I love it. Aaron, so we talked about this earlier. We said that most physios don't like the idea of working for a chiro, right? And you are a chiro, right? And so I'm curious, what is your like recruitment strategy for physios to work at your multidisciplinary practice?
It's funny because it's definitely way easier for us to recruit chiros, but it's less to do with me specifically recruiting them and what do our clinics have in terms of a physio presence. So, for example, at our Brentwood location, we only have one physio right now, and that's a barrier for trying to recruit physios to that location because it doesn't have a bigger physio presence. Whereas with Coquitlam, we have lots of physios. And so it's not a problem to recruit people here, even though it's me as a chiropractor talking to them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's me as a chiropractor has made a difference in terms of talking to them. I could be wrong because I certainly haven't successfully hired everyone I've wanted. But from the feedback that I get, it's what is the physio presence at the clinic that
because they're looking for mentorship, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But can you not leverage your other clinic to mentor someone in location 2?
We do. And they still the clinic director from here would go over there. And we've made it fully available, but for our last one that turned us down, as appreciative as she was of that, it was in her mind, she wanted someone that's like there, not all the time.
She wanted to be surrounded with other senior like physios. Like that was like a big deal for her, right?
Yeah. So I think it's more in the moment they like to have that there.
And who does the interviewing, recruiting for a physio? Is it a physio doing it, or is it like you, Aaron?
I mean, I would say it's mostly Rob and I, but we always bring whatever candidate in to meet some of the team, which our leadership team will ask specific questions to try to suss out if they will be a good fit as well. So they will always meet them, but I would say usually Rob and I are the first point of contact.
And have you ever tried to see whether it would be more or less effective of having maybe the senior physio do the interview, and see the outcome of that?
But we should.
Yeah. That would be a good experiment to test, right? Because you're dealing with like psychology now, right?
It's true. And it's something we should try. It has happened with students that have done their practicums here with our physios, where those specific physios took the lead on recruiting those people. And that has worked. But we haven't tried it in the way where we've never talked to this person before and their first interview is with one of the physios, but we should.
Yeah. So I was speaking with Tushane from Ardo Mobility in Toronto. He has 2 clinics, a team of 15.
Yeah.
And one of his recruitment strategies, which I love, is hiring physios to work in the front desk while they are going to school, right? And because they're paying them, like to cover the hours. It's better than working at another like side hustle, whether you're waitressing or whatever, but like they're getting a decently paid front desk job to fill in the gaps. And then that ends up, and now like in that environment, they're like breathing your culture, right?
Yeah.
Like they get to learn, and it's you're also benching them of like when they graduate, they could work with you, and they also know treatment planning because part of the front desk is like booking the treatment planning, right? So,
Yes.
and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so genius on that, and that's worked well for him and for recruitment, right?
That is genius because we've never done that. We did hire our eventual physio, but we hired him as a kin at first.
Yes.
Because he needed time to write his exam. But it was the same thing, just to try to lock him in and get him involved in the culture. But I really like that idea of hiring for front desk. So now I
hiring them for the front desk because you like you're gonna hire a student anyways, right? Why not hire a PT student?
What's his approach? How does he like get to them with that job?
You got to DM inside the community.
Right. Who is it again?
Tushane from Ardo Mobility. I'll connect you guys afterwards, right? But like, it's just a really good, like, it's really effective, like it's one of his, outside of social media, that's probably his like second biggest like hook to get like new grads,
I like it.
Yeah. Cool. So let's talk about your front desk operations. Like what's working, what's not.
I'll tell you, I mean, having a lead in place has been crucial. I mean, Rob has always been the admin side of things. I'm usually the therapist / CD leadership training type stuff. And he's always handled the front. So I'm sure if he would have a bigger cartoonish, smoke coming out of his ears every so often. But I know for a fact that having a good lead in place is what has determined whether things well or not as well.
Okay. And what are the main KPIs is he looking at typically for the front desk? Is it like show rates, cancel rates, arrival rates, answer rates?
We do arrival rates. I mean, even booked to prescribe, like part of the bonus is of course on the therapist, but also of course the front desk. Even with cancels and filling gaps, to be honest, that's an area that we need to get a lot better at. What else are we looking at? Even just like NPS scores, filling out the NARS, because that's telling. We have a lot of different sections on our NARS, but within that NAR itself, that is what's giving us a lot of.
What's a NAR, Aaron, for people who aren't in clinic to say what is a NAR? It sounds so evil.
It's it does. It should have a fluffier name for it, but basically, it's a Google form that the results go into a Google Sheet, so we can just filter results. But anytime there is an assessment, this NAR form, it gets filled out by the front desk, which has all the information about that appointment, right? The patient's name, the therapist's name, even the admin who filled it out. How many visits were they prescribed? How many visits were they booked? how many visits were prescribed in first, second, third week. We're also we have like a grading system on how the patient or how the therapist did on their handoff. Like, did they actually hand it off? Did they mention specifics about the appointments and days? Did they talk about their goals? Like a nice little goodbye, things like that. So again, that helps us determine where the clinicians need a little bit of work, but it also gives us some data as to like what does work well with patients buying into the plan and having that.
What happened on that first visit? I think it's a new patient registry, right? What happens after that first day, and why is it that you run a separate Google sheet versus maybe something that you could use on your EMR?
Because to my knowledge, the EMR is not going to have near the same amount of as information. I also don't think it's as quickly and readily as accessible.
Okay.
So from an efficiency standpoint, it's the NAR to me is a no-brainer.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of that. I know a lot of EMRs pump a lot of metrics and data, but we also want something that's actionable. So if you can have a sheet that shows you every single new patient and like their behaviors at the patient level, not at a report level, right? Sure, I got 20 assessments last week, but if you could look at the patient activity and behavior of that first day, and then like learn from it, like that's where all the magic happens, right?
Well, and you said learn from it, and I think that's an important part, because that would be another reason. Because if the admin aren't having to like input anything, then they're not really having to like think and also reflect on any of it, right? Like maybe they're not doing it, but the good ones would be, in terms of you're specifically marking these things down, which allows you to gather information yourself on, this type of patient booked in, or the therapist handed it off this way and they seem to book in more, right? And so that then they can use that information to, relay to us or their lead to say, hey, I've noticed that, every time a therapist does this, like, patient seems to want to book more. And then, okay, now we can relay that. Hey, let's make sure we're doing, really diligent with doing this. But if you don't have that and it's only driven into the EMR automatically, then there's no real self-reflection happening, at least at the admin side.
Yeah, I love it. And so next question is like, what's kind of in your tech stack? What are all the like different types of softwares you use in your biz, right? That helps you grow your practice?
Oof, I don't think I'm going to give you a good answer on this one.
Well, let's start with your EMR. Like, what EMR do you use?
We use Jane.
Okay. Do you love using Jane? Are you like a big Jane fan? Like, what were you using before? Like, what are the features that you love the best?
Yeah, my clinic before, we used Clinic Master, and I'm sure Clinic Master has evolved over the last 10 years, but Jane was way better than Clinic Master. So far, I mean, I like Jane, but again, I am not a tech guy whatsoever. And so I don't.
My hunch is that your therapists, your providers also love Jane, and that makes it easy. Isn't it? I hear that from a lot of owners where what EMR you have also is important with like the recruitment strategy, because if they have to learn how to do all their SOAP stuff and documentation within, like, say, maybe an outdated EMR that's not patient friendly or clinician friendly, it will lower your probability of hiring, right?
100%. I could tell you right now, if I was to join a clinic and I knew one had Jane and the other had Clinic Master, assuming most of the other stuff was equal, I would absolutely choose the one that has Jane.
Yeah. Okay, that was good. Anything else on the tech side that you use, or like outside of EMRs?
Yeah, I mean, we use MailChimp.
Okay. MailChimp is your emails, right? Cool.
Yeah.
And are you sending out weekly emails, like monthly emails, or you don't send like call it marketing emails to your patient database?
We send monthly emails.
Okay, cool.
Monthly, and we're just starting we've done a text campaign in the past, but we're gonna do another text campaign. So trying that through there before we use text magic.
Okay. Interesting. Cool. Yeah. And so, and Aaron, obviously you're one of the coaches within Clinic Accelerator. I think a lot of people in the community, when look up to you when they look at, the growth that you've had over the years, especially now that you've scaled to 2 locations, you got a team of 35. And I'm curious, what are like when you're working with clients right now, what would you say is the top three the top three revenue leaks you're seeing at everyone's practice right now? The people that are stuck, at that 500,000 mark, or maybe even at 1 million, right? Like they're stuck. The business hasn't moved for years, and it's kind of like where you were. This is kind of where you're at before you kind of knocked on the door talking to Evan.
Well, I might go off the board a little bit here because I think these are indirect revenue leaks. Is number one is not having a P&L, which is something that we were guilty of as well before. And the reason I say that is because when you don't know where the money's coming in and where the money's going out, it's really hard to make decisions as to how to grow your business and make money. Because also a lot of people have no idea that they're not making money at all,
You
or
wouldn't know in your bank account. Your bank account's not moving.
it's true, but like, okay, that's fair, but you can see revenue go and maybe your account's not. Like one of my guys didn't, like his AR was insanely high, but he didn't even know that. And he pays people off of billings, not receivables. So the money was going out, but the money wasn't really coming in.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but so I think that in a way is a huge foundation that a lot of people don't have, that they should be aware of, because again, that controls a lot of your decision making as to like how you can grow your business, even just understanding the margins and like revenue sharing, right? Like to know that you might have a ton of revenue in RMT, but that's 75% split. So like that margin is not the greatest. So if you keep adding RMTs, yeah, that's going to like add a little bit more to the bottom line every time, but you should be adding a physio because those margins are.
And then look at the benchmarks, right? What percent are you overspending on admin? Are you overspending on like payroll? Are you overspending on rent? Right? Looking at all those different line items from expense up. So, okay, monthly P&Ls. What else, Aaron?
That'll be one thing. Another thing would be, I mean, for sure, is the treatment planning process. Because again, you see a lot of clinics with like, they can get a ton of assessments, but like PVAs are low. So like they're not really seeing these people through more than a few, like 2-3 visits.
What's the PVA at your practice, Aaron?
Well, it will vary between practitioners, but
Well, at the clinic level.
Well, so I'll at least go discipline level. Like the chiros are in the like 9-10.
Okay.
The physios are in the more like 7-8, which they should be more than a chiro, I guess. But and I mean, massage personally, I think it's kind of hard because they're just.
I think it's like 30 or 40, right? Yeah. If you really look at it, it's like forever.
They're just always booked, so it's kind of hard. But that's what...
Just put things in context, Aaron. Like what I see specifically in your area, like within your region, I would say most PTs, PVA, which means patient visit average. That means like on average, how many times a patient books into a care plan. I would say in BC, typically it's around 3 or 4, right? And that's terrible, right? I'll just be honest, right? I don't know how you could fix someone after like 3 visits unless you got some like special Dr. Ho's like hands or on the 10th machine or whatever it is, like that could magically cure like an ACL after 3 visits, right? So it is, and here's, I think you bring up a good point. Like, if you have a PVA of 3 and like you getting it just to a 6 or a 7, your revenue would have doubled already. And that's just you providing proper care, which requires you to do a treatment plan, all the stuff we talked about earlier, right?
100%. And I mean, yes, there's that side of it too, where it's like, that person should be there for 6 visits instead of 3. So of course, 3 more visits get you more revenue. But I would bet that the people that are coming 3 times are generally not getting better, which means, again, go back to the experience. Their experience is not the best. So next time they're injured, they're probably not coming back. But if you gave that better care, they are coming back. So again, more revenue. And then you could say the same thing from a referral standpoint, that 3 PVA, probably not getting better, not a great experience. Therefore, that when their friend or family gets hurt, are they sending them to you? Probably not. But if you gave them that good experience, then yeah, you are going to get that. So you're right. The increased revenue is on that patient specifically, but there's so much more that you're missing out on if you're not providing that great experience for them.
Yeah, I love it. And let's be honest, like I think, a lot of these people who come like 2, 3 visits, like typically self-discharge, right? And when they self-discharge, like, and when their family or friends or spouse say, "Hey, like, how was that physio appointment?" Or "How was that? How was seeing that physio?" Oh, it didn't really work.
Hmm.
And so now, like, that's where the compounding impacts happens, right? And so, and what's interesting is that after looking at thousands of like P&Ls and looking at, like these NPS scores and Google reviews, there is a 100% correlation with running an amazing business, amazing patient experience, amazing patient outcomes, and like high PVAs and all these other metrics. They're all aligned, right, with like patient outcomes and
Exactly.
experience. It's not a money because I've also seen practices where like they force a patient to come like 30, 50 times. Those ones will die because like you'll see that like they have no assessments, they got no reviews, it's just bad, like it's all that's
Yeah.
not what we're talking about here, right? So
But that's the key for us when we're trying to explain how important this process is to our therapist is for them to understand it's not about the money in the business. It is about the results for the patient and that experience, right?
mm,
So it's how do we convey that message in that way, which is so important.
yeah. So treatment plan is the tactic, right?
Yeah.
And so Aaron, would you say that it is like leadership and coaching is why that can't implement that? Like,
Yes, I would say 90% of the time, yes, right? Like you are going to have some of those people that are just not willing to like be coachable or at least try. And then you got to try to tease that out before bringing them on. But other than that, I think it really does come down to us as coaches and leaders to be able to help them gain those skills.
yeah, because I feel like all the tactics are out there, but it's usually the owner doesn't have the skill set or the culture, the clinic culture, to be able to implement it because they will face resistance and then they fear that their top biller or their best physio chiro will leave them.
Yeah, that happens a lot. But even with the clinic that I'm coaching, he wasn't afraid that someone was going to leave, but he was very nervous about the resistance. And then when he did eventually kind of bring it up and roll it out, like everyone was on board and people are loving it now. So I think it just comes down to what do you as a clinic owner, how do you want your practice and clinic to be, right? How do you want that experience to be delivered? And you just got to stick with that. And if someone isn't on board with it, well, then that's okay. They might leave and you will definitely be better off in the long run.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron, what type of results did you get with that one client? Because I know you had a big win. I saw in the Slack channel you had a big win with one of the clients. I think he had a couple of clinics, lots of therapists, and they were rolling out treatment plans for the very first time. And there was a lot of hesitation. What was your process of working with the owner to actually get these results, and what was the outcome?
Yeah, I mean, well, the first step was just helping him through avoiding the difficult conversation. And it's not difficult, but again, he was nervous that there was going to be resistance. So just helping him navigate to have this team meeting and explain again, that's where it's, if you just come guns blazing and say, this is our process, this is a new thing, we're doing it, everyone figure it out, right? But that's not going to go over as well. But if you explain the why, again, about the patient experience, yada, 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 then people are going to be receptive to it. So it was first kind of coaching him around that. He did an amazing job. And then rolling it out, he rolled it out like gradually, right? Started with a few people and then saw the results, and then other people see the results, right? And then he kept bringing on more people to roll it out. And now he's even got one of his guys who was resistant, but then did it and loved it. And now he's going to kind of grow into this clinical lead to improve this whole process of rolling out the treatment plan and obviously just continuing the improvements along the way, because inevitably you're
Having a
going
leader like roll it out now, so it's not him anymore, right?
to exactly, it's just evolving into all of that.
Yeah. And what was the PVA before and after on it?
Well, I remember specifically there was two of the clinicians that they were hovering between like 1 and 2.3 PVA,
Oh my gosh.
and
A PVA of 2 after 2 visits, like they self-discharge?
but because but his clinic is so busy with assessments that these people were generally busy, so they don't really
Jeez.
see that they're not retaining patients. But they got up like within literally a few weeks. They were up to 5, 6, 7. Like it was crazy to see the difference.
Amazing.
And it was awesome,
Yeah.
and they could
Yeah.
have been resistant because they're like, well, I'm busy, but you know what, he did such a good job of explaining it in a way of why it's valuable to the patient and their experience, and you as a therapist, of course. But and they rolled it out, and like I said, they're doing a great job with it.
So they're humming in their business right now then, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, he's humming. He's pretty happy. I mean, his clinic's grown in the last year, and now just things are really coming together nicely. But
What do you think his month-to-month increases so far?
well, from year to year, from the year we started, he's had 25% increase in growth,
Okay.
in revenue. And I mean his month. I mean, the summer is obviously a little bit. It's
What
not
about
as.
quarter to quarter then?
Oh,
You think
I
he's
don't
still
know.
hovering 25 or is that higher? It has to be higher, right? Because you just started working with him, right?
Yeah, yeah. There was. Let's see here. He he went up 46% growth if you're comparing like this month to what we're. Sorry, I should say August, not September. September hasn't happened yet, but this August to last August, he was 46% higher. He
Damn.
was
Yeah.
104,000 is what he was his revenue in last August, and 152 for this one.
Yeah. Wow.
So
And that's because of you helping him rolling out the treatment plans, all the stuff we kind of talked about today, right?
yeah, I mean, we've worked on a lot, and he's worked super hard as well.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
credit to him.
And I know this owner, he's been, yeah, it's been challenging, right, over the years, right? Especially when you as an owner, you're like, I'm getting so much assessments each week. How come my bank account is not increasing? My
Yeah,
schedule is full, but like, how come it's not increasing, right?
I know. But that's the thing. I mean, even his another thing we worked on was his accounts receivable,
Yeah.
in terms of tracking down that money, but also the collection process in the moment. That's been revamped, and now, he's collecting more as well, and it's not going back to a high AR either.
Yeah. Wow. I love this, Aaron. Hey, Aaron, this was fabulous. Thanks for sharing your time with us and your journey. I actually love your kind of clinic owner journey, and it's cool to see you kind of evolve. Now you're kind of giving back and work with other owners with the same challenges that you kind of went through in the very beginning of your journey. How do people find out more about you or want to like work with you, Aaron?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks again for having me. I really do appreciate it. And how would they find out? I mean, they can reach out to me on Slack. You can just private message me, Aaron Binstock. You can email me, aaron@clinicaccelerator.com. And also you can just go to the Stand store and reach out to yourself or Daryl, and he can connect you with me as well if you're interested, because I do have a
And
video.
what's your Instagram handle, Aaron? Because you're also on Instagram as well, right?
You're gonna kill me now. I don't. As I told you, I don't like technology. My clinic has Instagram. I don't. I don't have any of those apps. I have Facebook, which I use for marketplace. So I know, man, it's bad, but I check the Score app and TSN, and that's about it.
It's Strive Health, right?
Yeah. Strive Health.
Strive
Yeah.
Health, Health and Perform Strive Health. You could check them out here as well. So, but
Yeah.
Aaron, thanks for coming on the show. That was awesome
All
chatting
right.
with you.
Thank you.